Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zenker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Today I want to talk about something that I think is prevalent in society that has snuck up on us, and that is skepticism. It's lowering our ability to see possibilities because we're more careful in our participation. We are looking at and exploring fewer ideas. It's slowing down our decisions. And at work, it's affecting our ability to collaborate and to trust each other as well as leadership. Leaders, they're seeing this in the growing numbers that we're experiencing in disengagement. Gallup recently posted that 79% of people are disengaged. That's a huge number. And a lot of that comes down to the skepticism. Skepticism is holding us back from our possibility, from our great. What's important for us to understand is that skepticism isn't an attitude problem per se, it's an attention pattern. And when we look at it like that, it might change the way that you interact with people when you're experiencing that level of skepticism. As leaders, it's important to understand that skepticism rarely starts at work. It develops through the lived moments and experiences that people are having that teach them how to trust the outcomes, the systems, and the authority figures. It's in the times that we've purchased something and expected one thing but got another. I have a great story that also talks about how skepticism can develop from a really early age. Someone that's very close to me, as a child, probably about 10 years old, he went to New York City with his parents, and as they were walking along the street, there was that shell game that was there. 3 shells, and there's one ball that's underneath one of those shells. And they tell you to watch closely and then to pick where the ball ends up after they're done moving them around. And he tracks the ball and he wins the first time. And he's excited. He knows where the ball is. He's really attentive. And then he tries again and he loses. But he knows he was right. But the outcome tells a different story. And he told me when I asked him where the skepticism in his approach to life has come from, he said it was that moment that something shifted, and he said that he felt like it was a setup and that he would always look at things from the perspective that someone is out to hide something from him or that it's not what it seems. It became his lens for everything that he filtered through. So that skepticism grew over time with his experience because we know that what you focus on, you get more of. So if he was focused on someone taking advantage of him or hiding things from him, he saw more of that. And that is what he saw in his life, whether it was the politics in an organization that everyone's working to their own agenda. He would see more and more of that. And it narrowed down his perspective. So with this lens, it shaped how he focused and what he focused on, the decisions that he made and how he made those decisions, and where he invested his effort. And here's the challenge. Today, most employees, they've lived through restructuring, shifting priorities, layoffs, initiatives that were launched with urgency but faded without explanation, that all of a sudden, poof, that urgency was gone. Or they found out very quickly that there was no real urgency. It was just pressure that was being put on them. Over time, this has had an impact on people where they have adopted more of a wait and see rather than a leaning in and let's get into it. And that's affecting the level of engagement that we're seeing today, as Gallup has reported that 79% of people are disengaged. Well, this skepticism, this lens plays a role. It also has a connection to what I call the nitpicker effect, which is when something annoys you or you recognize that an expectation isn't being met, then you start to nitpick and look at all the other things around that that person or that organization is doing. So you see more of those things that you don't like because that's what you're looking for. And you block out the things that actually work, the things that actually you want to see because you're so hyper focused on finding the things that are bad or inconsistent or uncertain. And this is well documented in neuroscience research on threat, stress, and cognition, including the work that's been summarized by the National Institute of Mental Health. The brain shifts from contribution to conservation. And that matters for you to understand what's the source of what's happening so that you can shift it when you recognize those signals. How does focus play a central role here in addressing skepticism? Well, research on attention and interruption from the University of California, Irvine, it shows that it takes an average of 23 minutes to return to a task after an interruption. And it reinforces how easily focus is disrupted under a perceived threat. It's not just something like an email that comes in, it's any kind of thought that might come in as a perceived threat that also interrupts focus in your thought process. When your attention is constantly orienting itself towards what might go wrong or reinforcing the anticipation of risk, that's when we are interrupting our flow, our ability to focus, and our ability to open up and contribute ideas and move towards possibility. And that's also why surface level engagement tactics fail. Because when you put forward surveys, but there's no follow through, that does you more harm than good because it feels like a performative practice. When metrics that reward activity instead of progress are being used, when recognition feels generic or misaligned or not really personal, or when feedback is framed like an evaluation rather than it is for your personal growth, right? Those things can leave people feeling skeptical. It's not out of care that it's purely organization and that's all that matters, right? People feel like a number at work. The more that that's reinforced, the more skeptical that people are and the more they withdraw. So let's talk about 5 leadership practices that you can use to shift skepticism in the organization. It's going to only shift through experience, not persuasion. It's got to be through them experiencing that there's a level of care. Number 1 is simply provide clarity, because clarity reduces the cognitive overload that people are experiencing today. So when people understand what the clear priorities are, what the expectations are of them, and how success is defined, not just as an organization, for them personally, right? They can further relax into that. And they don't have to scan for things that are being hidden, because the research on cognitive load theory shows that uncertainty increases mental strain and reduces higher. So a second thing is if you measure progress, not activity, the brain is wired to seek progress. And when they can feel the momentum that they are achieving as they go forward, well, that is going to increase their motivation and their persistence and their level of commitment and ownership. Number 3 is personalization at the to personalize the employee experience. I recently did a study that shows that 1 in 3 people will leave today if the experience is not personalized. It's something that people need to feel like the organization cares and that there's a collaborative work environment as opposed to a command and control type of work environment. And I'll attach that research to the show notes so that you can go dig into more details. But basically, the report showed that the more and the higher personalization in each environment at the various different touch points in the organization, from onboarding to feedback and performance reviews, that when things are personalized for their personal development, then that's when you're going to see the greatest level of engagement. Number 4, people support what they create. So involve them in the decision-making process when and where possible. And by doing so, you'll see that people will be more engaged and they're not going to be skeptical about whether the decisions are being made in their best interest. They're a part of the decisions that are being made. And number 5 is make more reset moments. Make it a part of your leadership practice. Basically, that these reset moments, they can interrupt automatic patterns of protection or disengagement by pausing to ask people genuinely and authentically what's working, what needs adjustment, what matters to them, so that you can be sure that you are addressing what's distracting them, what's creating the most stress, what takes the most time, and what wastes the most time. And when you're able to do that as a leader and support people in doing their best work, they will show greater commitment and ownership, and that will lower their level of skepticism. Skepticism is just an emotional response that is a signal. And that signal can help you be a better leader by recognizing it and transforming it so that people can show up and do their best work. Because people invest where trust feels real. They engage where their thinking matters and they feel valued. And they contribute when clarity replaces confusion or uncertainty. That's how we loosen the grip of skepticism, and engagement returns in a way that is sustainable and can last. The thing that's most important today, with how fast we're moving, with AI threatening to take over people's work, or at least that's their perception, the human connection is more important than ever, because the skepticism is going up and up, and it's the human connection, the personal attention and care that you give each individual that's going to help them to reconnect to you as a leader, to the organization, to the mission at hand, and that will reduce the skepticism when they feel valued and they feel like they can contribute something of value. And people will bring their best work when they don't just feel like a number, but they feel like a valued member. Love to hear your thoughts. What creates skepticism for you? Where does it show up? What are the signals that you recognize? And what would reduce your overall skepticism in any particular situation? What are the experiences that you have personally been through that have shifted you from skepticism to trust and performance? What was present in those organizations or with those leaders that met that skepticism, and how did they turn that skepticism into trust and engagement? And where did they not? And what are the things that we could look at that must be avoided? Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.